Yeah.
I'll just kind of walk her and she goes because she's good vacation. All right, I will call the meeting to order. Roll call shows Ms. Lawrence is excused. All else are present. So the pledge of allegiance is. The flag is right behind us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our mission statement: Viroqua area schools will nurture excellence, unlock potential, and ignite passion. Item 4 is our student board report, student activities and academics, and our students will attend the October meeting. So no report today. Item 5, committee reports. Kim has compensation.
Compensation committee met last week. The entire meeting was in closed session, so I have nothing to report.
Item 6, welcome visitors, public comment. Is there any public comment? No. All right. Item 7, consent agenda. This includes item A, approval of agenda. Item B, proof of public notice. Item C, August meeting minutes. Item D, voucher summary 1 in the amount of $467.81. Retirements, resignations, none. Item F, appointments. Nan Oldenburg, part-time intervention teacher at private school. And Jackie Sainer, part-time special education teacher at private school. And item G, second reading of policies. New 5610.03, alternatives to expulsion and re-entry plans. And revised 0164 meetings, 2340 district sponsored trips, 3120.04 employment of substitutes, 4120.04 employment of substitutes, 3120.08 employment of personnel for co-curricular extracurricular activities, 3431 employee leaves, 4431 employee leaves, 5330 administration of medication, emergency care, 5430 class rank, 5505 academic honesty, 5610 suspension and expulsion, 5771 search and seizure, 6423 use of credit cards, 7540.05 assistive technology and services, 7544 use of social media, 8395 student mental health services, 8531 free and reduced price meals, 8600 transportation, 8601 controlled substance and alcohol policy for employees that transport students, parens renumbered from 4162 and parens, 8660 transportation by private vehicle for district sponsored activities or trips, 8680 transportation services contracts, and then rescind 4162 controlled substance and alcohol policy for employees that transport students, parens renumbered to 8601 and parens, 8640 transportation for field and other district sponsored trips, parens moved to 2340 and parens, 8651 non-routine use of school buses, parens moved to 8600 and parens. Those are the Neola policy updates.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Also for action, voucher summary 2 are expenses related to health insurance.
I'll move to approve voucher summary 2 in the amount of $262,292.67.
Second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I will make a motion to approve. Oh, you're gonna read all that?
I can
Sorry.
read all that. And that might be-
I'll just read it all, okay?
Okay.
I move to approve the 24-25 staff compensation, which includes support staff, administrator, supervisor, and other non-represented staff, annual salary, hourly rates, and supplemental pay. We don't need to go into closed session, I don't think. And then that's as recommended by the compensation committee, sorry.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
I have a question.
No.
All right, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 9, information discussion. A, donations over $250. The total amount is $2,460.95. So we had Dairyland Power, $500 to the IT department, Viroqua area schools. It helped in providing switches. Pete Swanson Memorial, $70 to baseball, and Booster Club, $1,892.95 for boys hockey gear. As always, we thank our community for the tremendous support that they provide to our district. Next item B, district administrator updates.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's an enrollment update. You saw in your packet, our best estimate at this point is that we will slightly increase. Over the past 4 years, we've been very stable. We're just slight increases and decreases throughout the years. That's not what we're seeing throughout the state as far as it. Latest figure I saw is 85% of schools are in decline and declining enrollment at this point. And so that's a positive that we're seeing, stabilization, if nothing else, especially as birth rates continue to decline. So again, +4 right now is what we're estimating. We'll know for sure on Friday. That number is going to fall, or that number is going to fall. Any questions on that?
How are the ins and outs counted? The ones that left our district, went to another, are counted in our district? Or did we wrong?
Okay.
count those that are physically present.
Yes, the ones that are physically present. Yep. Or virtual, as long as they're within our district, virtual. Yep.
For the membership, we actually, for the actual DPI membership, we add in the residents that are attending another school and subtract the ones that are from another district.
Yep. So they're, enrollment and membership are just viewed differently, which makes it really fun and confusing. Let's see here. So any other questions on enrollment? Okay. Bouncing through the facilities update. We absolutely have had a lot of work that has been done over the past month. When we look at our meeting in August and the mad scramble for our staff in August to be ready to open here at the beginning of September. Really appreciate everybody's flexibility. It has been a grind, I would say, to say the least. It really has. And so we knew, some of that at least was going to be that way, but as you're living it, it definitely is something that is difficult as we're going through. Just the finalizing of different things. As people get into their spaces, they're noticing different things that you do in a major renovation project. That, hey, we need to, we have light switches in a couple of our offices that are controlling multiple rooms and things like that. So we're getting through the switches. And that's frustrating. And so I do appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as we go through this. As you can see, major site improvements with the asphalt. And so when you look at our parking lots, they are beautiful. They've done a great job, and that was both Badger excavation and also Matthew coming through with that asphalt. And so what they were able to do and transform those parking lots was pretty incredible. We did make the decision, and this was a conversation over it was probably 2 years ago with, maybe even more, with the front parking lot, of the middle school, high school, and resealing versus completely tearing that down. Because they, had two kind of differing opinions. And in the end, we went with, it had enough integrity to reseal. And I'm so glad that we did, because as soon as we did that, I do believe there's a lot of life left in that parking lot. Even though that dollar amount would have been considerably larger had we gone a different route. I think it's gonna give us we're gonna be able to use it for years to come before we're going to have to put that kind of money into it. Which we will, because parking lots are parking lots and they crack and they age. So we celebrated our open house at the elementary. Angie was there. Thank you for being there. And we had a turnout out of around 50 community members that walked through and were given tours, and were able to see the space. This, of course, was the night after our back to school night. So there were already plenty of people in that building on Wednesday night, but Thursday night was really for those that aren't parents and don't have students within the building. And we had a great turnout as far as I'm concerned. As you can see as well, the exterior storefront doors at the elementary, I believe, Pat, are now all installed. I think we finished that one in the last couple of days. And that is another one of those projects that is just so difficult. It's loud and we were trying to get it done before the beginning of the year, couldn't, and so they had to do the last probably half dozen during the school year, and that was a hindrance, I would say, annoyance, maybe something along those lines. As we continue to go through, the minor improvements down at the Better Futures High School have been finalized. They're doing the exterior veneer at the tech ed wing. So if you go down, you can see the metal wood siding on the top, and then that stone veneer on the bottom. It looks really, really sharp. They're going to continue to finalize working on that bioretention pond at the bottom of Ben Lawton. That one is not a new pond that has been there for a long time, but it is not operating as it should, as sometimes this happens over time when sediment, kind of settles and starts to block things off. And so they'll be continuing that work. The other two ponds are completed, minus some landscaping that they're going to be planting some different natural or native grasses and then some trees around those ponds. Landscapers have been on site the last couple of days and will continue to be for the next few weeks, planting all of the things that they can here in the fall. They will have to come back and do some work in the spring because some of the plantings just don't take in, at this point. And so we don't want to waste time and money by planting things that aren't going to obviously survive. Soon they'll be turning over the elementary bathrooms near the gym. So that we can fully lock off the what would be cafetorium and the commons area over there with the gym. So when we have after school activities, we don't necessarily have all of the public entering the wings of the building. We couldn't close that off before because we didn't have enough bathrooms in that space. And so we had to allow access to the rest of the building. Now we will have enough bathrooms in that wing that we can actually block that off. And I know our nighttime custodians really appreciate that and not having to either babysit or get kids or people out of certain areas so that they can clean them. Remaining interior renovations here in this building will continue, and they will finalize those. And then we'll start working on doors within this building as well. So what we're moving to is essentially there will be no more of the steel frame exterior doors. When you look at the average lifespan of a steel frame door in Wisconsin, when right outside of that door, we have to put down salt and we have to, make sure that people don't slip on the concrete. They don't last. And so we were having major issues with doors not closing, with rust happening along the bases, and then even holes sometime developing, at that point, even after we've, scraped and repainted and done all of that. So with the aluminum storefronts, you can see, you know, the doors that have been at the front of the middle school, high school for a long, long time are still in great shape because they hold up so much better in these Wisconsin winters. And so that's what we're moving towards with every exterior door in the district. And then the elevator will be is starting install tomorrow. And so we are right on schedule with when we thought we were gonna, you know, get that.
Correct elevator.
The correct elevator, not a temp elevator. The correct elevator is on track to start install tomorrow. So they've done what they can to get it here as fast as they can. And now we are looking forward to, within a couple weeks, having a brand new, beautiful elevator for our students and staff. As we can say, we have most of the things closed up now, so rain delays aren't really an issue anymore. We can work inside, though we're kind of past that phase. I know I say that now we'll get some crazy, you know, weather, but we're past that phase as far as, okay, you know, we don't have a roof over this space. We can't continue to work on this space after it rains and we got to pump out water and do all that fun stuff. And so, you know, while we can't control those kind of things, I do think that's going to be something in the past. And now, again, working through punch list items. And so that punch list is, again, final checks and final walkthroughs as we go through and say, all right, that's not perfect, or hey, this knob is not, or this knob is off, or this light switch is off. And those smaller things that we just need to clean up prior to them handing over everything to us fully. And so walking through all of that, all of those options. So you can look, we did have multiple days over in August where we had over 100 construction workers on site. That's a lot to manage and a lot of commotion happening. We have fewer now, although sometimes it seems like we have more as we have our students back, and it's just harder to move around within the district. So any questions on that? Okay. Tech Ed, again, we talked about this, will be ready for the community walk through sometime in November. And so we will announce plans as we get closer and are more confident in those dates. And so that's going to be a really exciting time for our district and for our community to see what that wing has developed into. It's going to be incredible. Anything else on that? What's that?
Catching up in length.
I'm catching up in length. Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. And then as Robert alluded to again in his report, that we are, you guys voted in August to put a question on the ballot in November. I want to make sure that it's just very well known. That is not saying that a referendum has passed. We get some confusion about that every time we do something like that. That's not saying you are imposing a referendum. How that works is you vote to put it on the ballot. And so you did that in August, and now our community will have the opportunity to respond on that November 5th for the 1.3 million over 3 years. We made a change from our typical, we've been doing a 5-year non-recurring referendum for every year since 2004. And we've typically gone 5 years, and that has served us very well to this point. However, with the, I don't know the right word, volatility in our state aid and funding formula, we don't feel confident or comfortable even taking a best guess and projecting out 5 years from today. I don't think I could sit here and say, yep, I would feel good about any number, just because I don't know what it's going to look like 5 years from now. We have a much better idea with the way that the biennial budget works at what 3 years looks like. But again, I can't sit here with any confidence and tell you 5 years I'm gonna be able to budget, or Chris and I are gonna be able to sit down and give you any type of real or honest projection on that. And so the 3 year does a couple of things. It does allow us to have a much better and a clear budget picture if and when we would have to come back to the community for asking for additional operating funds. And then again, it does mean that we come back quicker. And so that's the trade-off, you know. And so There are pros and cons to it, but I do believe that this allows us to be, just paint a very clear picture of what our needs are as a district that way. And so for this, this money, it allows us to maintain our current programs, all of our, services and our current academic opportunities for our students, to maintain our facilities, which is what our typical non-recurring referendum has been earmarked for, to avoid further cuts to our staff, to keep salaries and benefits competitive with our nearby school districts, and to pay for minor facility improvements. These are not these major pieces. We're not talking about roofs. We're not talking about, HVAC. We're talking about minor facility improvements. And this comes after we surveyed our community. And again, I hit on this last month. I'm going to continue. I am so proud of our community. For a community our size, we needed 400 survey responses to have valid results, and we got 875 responses. That's an incredibly high response rate for any community, and over 60% of those respondents reported that they would support $1.3 million. I'm losing my voice. I coached flag football this weekend. I apologize. $1.3 million or more. And so we feel very confident that our community has responded in the way that this is a question that we need to be asking our community. We will be planning multiple community engagement opportunities sometime in October. And those dates are not announced yet. We'll get through some calendars, but we have already started to schedule meetings with the municipalities and kind of our typical piece there as we're going through and making sure we are giving a platform to all of our local municipalities to give us feedback. I apologize again for my voice. It's going quick. Any questions on that? All right.
Great, we'll move to item C, administrator reports, and I will just go down the list. I assume everybody has a start of school update. That's the first item. And then we'll move to Krista, who has, in addition, 24-25 assessment schedule.
I just have the assessment schedule. Do you want to start with the principals or?
However you guys
I'll
want
start
to
with
do
the
it.
assessment calendar and we'll go down the table. I just shared the local and state assessment calendar for the year. It's very familiar to what we have done in the past, other than a few changes that are requirements of Act 20. So you'll see some additions of Ames Web Plus as a screener for pre-K through 3 in the elementary, and then the addition of some diagnostics starting mid-year, because that's when the legislature pushed back the start date for that. Other than that, just the state's assessments, those screening windows are set by the state, so we don't have a lot of options there. And then the windows we have set for our own local assessments. Are there any questions about that?
The assessment days you have.
It's on the grade and the building. Some of the kids have more different subtests, but each one is pretty short, so it widely varies.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Student services teams, like the high school and middle school counselors and social worker and our psych are all most are getting into their new offices and excited about that. The nurses in their new office and really excited about that. Our special ed teams are busy. There's a lot of needs going on out there. But in a positive light, they're working through them and doing really well. So been a positive year to, beginning of the school year. And that's.
So going back to last year, the transcript of dual credits are, we actually saw quite an increase last year in that. We had 100, and I put this in the annual report. We had 114 students earn 432 credits at Western, which totaled a savings for the family of over 64,000. That was over, I think it was like 41% up from the previous year. Currently, this year senior class being a larger class and being to one of the required classes, but also this would have been the year we added child care and also intern education, which were both transcripted. So as far as the beginning of the school year, yeah, we're transitioning in our offices. Steve and I are one of the offices that one light switch controls them all. But fortunately we have windows, so we most days, unless it's really cloudy, we just leave it off so that we don't turn the lights off on each other. But it's been a good transition with that. At the fall activities, sports and everything is in full swing. Numbers are up. We actually, last I talked to Dan football, we were having an issue with the amount of equipment because we've had like so many kids during the season actually, and that's been adding and joining the team, which has been kind of cool to see. So we also, a unique thing to the school year, we had our collaborative learning teams last spring. We sat down and decided we wanted to plan out a different first day than just a normal first day. So we broke off into different groups, and we had one that was a pep assembly group that did staff introductions. Through AI, we had a guest introducer that was introducing all the staff. We tried choosing one that the students would recognize and would still get a kick out of. So SpongeBob introduced our staff. We did a pretty decent job saying most of the names. And then we went from there and we decided we would do an all school scavenger hunt. That students had to go around and try to learn things about their the staff members. So staff members had to share facts about themselves, and we made it more specific for the upperclassmen. It was a little bit harder for them because we had more specific things because they should know us better than the younger ones coming in. And there were general rules, like you could only ask, like, I think 3 was the maximum questions you could ask, or you had to move on to another staff member. And it was interesting, even some of the students that were not into it at first actually got into it quite a bit going throughout the hallway. And then each of the staff members had a little stamp that they could stamp their little bingo sheet to move on. And then we moved on to, we had class meetings. Eric and I had meetings to go over expectations. And then the library also had a meeting with them to talk about computer use. And so that took up like the morning, and then we did half of them meet with the classes in the afternoon. But surveys of staff and students both came back really positive. I don't know if we did this hunt every year, we might have to come up with something different at different times, but it was a great opportunity for kids just kind of go around. Mingle, like I said, you would think the 17 or 18 now may not be into it, but most of them were pretty into it.
Elementary has been busy, to say the least. Teaching staff had 2 days, flexible days to, in our building, it was all but just a handful, less than a very small handful, moved classrooms. So those 2 days were greatly appreciated and needed to move classrooms. I did get one teacher say, it kind of makes sense now how you had us move. I was not coaching flag football. That's supposed to be the weather.
Who's watching?
Yeah. Yeah, so those days were really needed at elementary stuff to get ready, which led into our in-service, which you know, we had a lot of positive feedback, going to Westby for that day with the other schools within the county. Led into the open house and ribbon cutting that Tom talked about. That was a great opportunity to get the public in and see what we're so proud of. It's in a lot of ways looks like a brand new school at the elementary building. Without, and obviously the main entrance is beautiful, the commons, the off secure entrance and office space, new cubbies, but just walking through with fresh coat of paint, it looks like a brand new building, which is awesome. We're super proud of it. Yeah, and as things keep rolling, doors got installed and you know, staff have been very flexible to have doors being put in while students are here, and then you go out to recess and realize, well, the battery doesn't work on the door you just came out of to go to recess, so you may have to be flexible. But yeah, we can't say enough about the staff, and each day it seems like there's a little bit more done. Progress on everything going on, and it's awesome. They're great spaces to have. We've already figured out ways like, wow, we need a space for this student to work quiet. But we have some of those spaces now that we didn't have last year. It's just nice to have some breathing space and some flexible learning spaces. So we're rolling.
For the middle school, I won't bore you guys with talking about the similar things that I've talked about in previous reports. Because as you know, and similar to what the other principals talked about, this back to school, the best first day, week, and month conversations started back in April, right? So there's been a lot of conversation and work by our staff, planning what the first few days were going to look like and feel like for our students. And a large part of that then led to us creating our HAWK expectations and foundations that were student driven. We engaged students in those conversations last spring. And then these first couple of weeks have really been talking about those and our staff and our students engaging in those conversations, talking about relationships, routines and expectations that way. And so we're just kind of dipping our toes in the water of academics now 2 weeks in. So that's kind of fun to hear those conversations shifting and changing, and the students engaging in those conversations too. Echo the same sentiments that the other two principals said of the great amount of flexibility with the staff and the students. I mean, some things changed for them too, right? Trying to find the nurse on the first day was different. The nurse moved, right? Not many were looking for the principal's office on the first day, which is a good thing. But also that moved, right? So that's been a fun experience, kind of showing off the principal's office, which is not really a common occurrence, showing off the principal's office. But
They wanted to come see the secretary, so.
They do.
You would
yep.
think with it all being last, it would be obvious, but it's not.
Totally. So those conversations have all been really good. We're excited about some of the new things that are coming this year with the CLTs, those conversations, focusing on the common student outcomes with those grade level collaborative learning teams being around behavior and social emotional learning and employability skills. So we've got some tools that we're going to be implementing this year that you're going to be hearing more about as we move throughout the school year. The first screening assessment window for that tool is going to be in October. So yeah, as far as the beginning of the school year, it's been really good, really positive. We ended our first week with an all-school assembly, really focusing again on those HAWK expectations and on the sentiment of all HAWKs belong in the flock. It's been, we felt that different this year. So it's been very fun, very cool, very fun.
Thanks, everyone. An early learning center update, Sharon.
So everybody's talked about staff and students. We currently have 55 children enrolled in our program, and we have 3 more families joining us in November with new babies. We did lose 14 children to 4K, so which is why we are pretty much low in our enrollment right now. But we have 20 families on the infant waiting list, with half being unborn or due next year. We hope to get most of them in, but it's doubtful that we will. Before and after school program, we have about 8 right now. We did put an ad out in the paper for 3-4-year-olds immediate enrollment, which is also getting on the website. And so hopefully we can start getting our 3-4-year-olds built up. Staff wise, we are fully staffed at 16 for the amount of children that we have. We have 2 school to work students, so one from Westby and one from Viroqua. They both have their schooling, which really helps, so thanks to Jason for offering those classes, because that made a world of difference. We did lose one of our staff to the new Lafarge Center that's opening up in October. But, okay. Let's see what else. We had a super summer staff this year, but unfortunately they had to go back to college. Tried to encourage them to stay on, but so they had to go back. And so anyway, we had 2 from the school district that helped out in the kitchen and the school aid. And they, of course, had to go back to work. So things that are going well, our staff is a great group of educators. They work well together. They're flexible, they're hardworking, they're reliable. Lots of laughter and support happens daily. Our parents are supportive as well and have been wonderful about being consistent with attendance. They are also aware of what is happening and are always listening to the teachers and to what each child is needed. Your child needs. We did receive another grant for $20,000 from Children's First Finance, so we are using it for our playground surfacing, which will hopefully happen next year because that's a huge undertaking with a large bill. We use some of it to order new t-shirts for staff and replenish supplies and books. We continue to receive the Child Care Counts grant money that comes from DCF. So we get about $3,000 a month for operating costs and about $1,500 a month for staff incentives. I have made a brochure that I've put out at the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm at the new Chamber of Commerce director. And I'm also going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting on October 3rd. So get to know them a little bit more and talk more about our center. I'm also on the Head Start Board of Directors, starting tonight. And I'm also going to drop off brochures to the Wisconsin Economic Development Association for agencies. So in the future, some things that we'd like to see is we're going to start doing some playground fundraising. I would love to have a VAS Early Learning Center Touch a Truck night for the whole community. It's just huge in other cities. Children love it, parents love it, and I don't see why we can't do it. So that'll hopefully be in the spring. And we will also continue to enroll students as long as we need the staff to do so.
What's your biggest challenge and are you to getting students in?
What's the what?
What's your biggest challenge to get more?
Yes, right now that's our biggest challenge, and then to keep the staffing to go with all the students.
I think we're trying to be really intentional about, yes, we have waitlist. We need it to make sense, you know, financially as well, right? Where it's like, yes, we can have, we could hire somebody to fill, 20 students, but spread out over all the ages doesn't make a teacher, right? In each individual age level. That's where we're kind of in this, a little bit of flux there, where we need to get either that waiting list up to where we can support, a new full-time hire, or vice versa. But right now, I mean, it's in a good spot.
You might want to drop some of those brochures off to realtors, since they often see when people are moving to the community that may or may not have kids, but the realtors are a good spot to have those.
Other questions, board? Okay, well, thank you everyone for the administrative reports. Item D, board report, Laurel High School update. I have an update from Laurel that on Wednesday, September 18th at 5:30, they are planning their annual meeting and dessert potluck. And that will be held at Eckerd Park, weather permitting, otherwise at Laurel. And they are looking for 2 new members as they've had 2 parents move off the board due to children moving and moving on. So that is on their schedule. Kim and Pat, VAM's update.
Pat, we'll have to give it because I wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah, it's, seems like a long time. I think the biggest thing is the governance council for VAMs is really trying to be as good a steward of the contract as possible. Looked at annual budget that was presented. Looking at ways they can evaluate leave based on some of the things we already do. Tom's evaluation of me. Yeah, looking at just going through the contract and updating things that way. Whether to have a separate website or build off of ours to meet their needs. Yeah. All right.
And WASB legislative update. She's not here, but guess what she left for me? We were getting out. All issues administrative report to the CISA Board of Controls. So just a few things on here I'll highlight, and I usually don't send these out to the board, but if anybody wants to see it, I'll stick around after. So they're planning their PAC meetings for the year. So that's the Professional Advisory Committee, which is made up of superintendents. And they were just talking about the increase in the record requests of financial statements for districts throughout the state. And how do we prepare CISA 4 districts for this kind of scrutiny? And the reality is that we're seeing significant turnover in the district's business services department. Surprise. What? And superintendents then have to field these questions, and that's not their area of expertise. That's why we have business directors. So they're going to have Shayna Lewis come to a meeting, and also Jim Morgan, who's a member of a nonprofit organization that provides resources for businesses and school systems. So focus on business area. And there's also a new Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards, and CISA 4 has been selected to create the community of practice around these standards for the entire state. And this initiative will help educators across all districts consistently implement these career readiness skills, ensuring that every student, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to develop the competencies needed to thrive in an ever-changing world. And then there's also item 3, there are many operational referendum, capital referendum, and combination of both this spring or next fall. And so this fall, we've got Sparta, Toma, Alma Center, Bangor, La Crosse, Lafarge, Viroqua, Royal, and West Salem, all going to referendum. And the last item, they had a Paris Summit at CISA 4 in mid-August, and there were 78 participants from 15 school districts. Numbers were down slightly because 2 of the larger districts chose not to send staff due to budgetary constraints. Do you have anything to add to that little memo?
Nope. Good to go.
Okay, so that's an update of that, and then we all get the school news in the mail. Oh, look what I learned from Angie. I put Post-it notes here so I can read them. But I do read the school news. I always think the articles are great. So there's one about Spooner, and they offer outdoor physical activity as an academic and behavioral intervention. And if you read this article, you'll see the results show all sorts of positive things that come from that. So I thought it's a good one for us to look at. Read that article and be aware of that. And then what to do after receiving social media threats, just best practices for responding to those threats. Maybe how to identify who's sending them, determine if it's a credible threat, or, just you can't respond strongly to every single one. Just learning to identify which ones are something to respond to. And then trends in employee attraction and retention. Another article, the state budget preview and timeline. Browse through that. I found the article on hiring F1 student visa holders interesting because I used to work with F1 student visa holders, but I don't know if that's anything our district will ever be able to take advantage of. Probably don't have a lot of international students looking to come to Viroqua for a year as part of their job experience that they get to have.
Get right on that.
Yeah.
Put it on the list.
Put it on the list. I'm not recommending that, but yeah, so we've got that.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great night.